All right. So good evening, all of you, and welcome to day 6 of our Python Developer Bootcamp to use Python, understand the language Python, and write code in Python. If you're a beginner in Python, this is an excellent course to develop your Python skills and to become confident in Python. On day 1, we did a research together and we all realized together in class that Python is the #1 skill and the most needed skill you need for your tech career. If you're a data professional, if you are into cloud, cyber security, DevOps, software engineering, you need Python. And this particular course will make it possible for you to understand Python and for you to be able to read Python as well. I want to urge you to take the course seriously, go through all the lessons very well. If there is anything that you need further understanding on, make sure you rewatch the video, do more research, work on all the projects that we give because we want you to practice coding. The best way to learn how to code is to code yourself. It is not enough watching somebody code. It is not enough listening to someone explain code. What will help you is for you to write code yourself. And so what this course is trying to do for you is to help you to be able to think critically and solve problems using Python programming. This is what you need to develop, and this is what will help you to gain the skills you need for advancement in your tech career. Like we've always been mentioning, use AI, but use it to confirm what you've been able to work on yourself. Use it to do more research, but don't use it to do your assignment. If you have an assignment, it's an excellent opportunity for you to test yourself, for you to think, and for you to be able to solve a problem using Python. If you're able to do that, then you are developing the skill. The goal of this class is to help you develop that skill. So today we want to continue. This is day 6, which means we've had day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. And if you missed anything, go back to the LMS and watch the videos and get yourself up to date. Today, we want to move on to another interesting topic. And before we do that, we want to do a very quick recap on what we studied yesterday. Yesterday, we're able to combine conditions using new kinds of operators that we call logical operators. In that lesson, we studied 3 logical operators, and I want to know who can tell me any of them. So if you remember, please put it in the chat for me. The operators we studied yesterday, if you remember any of them, please put them in the chat for me. And by using these operators, we were able to combine 2 Boolean expressions or 2 conditions together to create a compound condition to derive our true or false from the compound condition. And so previously, we were able to use Boolean expressions to create single conditions. And a single condition, all right. So a single condition will evaluate to true or false. So we're able to write expressions that will evaluate to true or false. But sometimes you want to join 2 conditions before you come out with either true or false, and that can be done using logical operators. So with these logical operators, you are able to combine conditions. We looked at what is called the AND logical operator. We looked at the OR logical operator and the NOT logical operator. So thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Selena, for reminding us. And when it comes to the AND logical operator, we studied that 2 conditions or both conditions need to be true before the result will become true. So whenever you use the AND operator, the first condition needs to be true and the second condition also needs to be true before we get a final true result. With the AND logical operator, if one of them is not true, then both will evaluate to false. So over here, we can see that we have true and false, and the true and false will evaluate to false. I'm just wondering what is showing on my screen. I may have to restart the computer again. All right, so let me just restart and we will see. Let's see. All right, so welcome once again to today's lesson. We're doing a quick recap of yesterday's lesson, and we were discussing how multiple conditions can be joined together using special operators called logical operators. And these logical operators can take one condition, combine it with another condition, and come out with a compound condition. So after the decision of condition 1 and condition 2, we come out with one decision. Condition 1 needs to tell us whether true or false. Condition 2 needs to tell us true or false. But then, with the logical operator we use, we are able to join their decisions together and come out with a single decision, whether true or false. The AND logical operator will come out with a final true only if both of them say true. So if condition 1 says true and condition 2 also says true, then the final result or the output will be true. With the AND operator, if condition 1 says true and condition 2 says false, the final result will be false. If condition 1 says false and condition 2 says true, the final answer will be false. If condition 1 says false and condition 2 also says false, the final answer will be false. So with the AND operator, you only get true only if both conditions are true. And then we tried some example. For example, if you have age 17 and a citizen equals true. And over here, you can see two conditions over here. You can see condition 1 saying that age is greater than or equal to 18. And what this is saying is that we want to evaluate this expression to find out whether it is true or false. And so if you evaluate this expression, the final result will be, it is going to output false because the age is not greater than or equal to 18. So this is condition 1. Condition 1 says false. Then condition 2 is saying that a citizen equals true. If you check the value of a citizen over here, you can see that the value is true. And so condition 2 says true. Now, what you see here is the operator we are talking about. This is a logical operator, and its job is to combine two conditions or multiple conditions and come out with a final result. The final result will be evaluated when we consider both of them. So the first one is saying false, the second one is saying true. So who can tell me what the final output will be? Are we going to get true or false at the end of the day, looking at the logical operator we are using? So someone just put it in the chat, and the first person to tell us the answer says that it is false. It is false because one of them says false. This is like a mandate on a bank account that both of them needs to sign. If one doesn't sign and only one signs, it's not going to work. all right, it's not going to work. Or where there is an agreement that both of them needs to agree before something can be done. If one does not agree and one agrees, then it is going to fail. That is what the AND operator does. Now, with the the OR operator is saying only one of them needs to agree. So if we get both of them agreeing, we are still going to get true. If we get only one of them agreeing, we are still going to get true. If the first one does not agree, the second one agrees, we are still going to get true, because with the OR operator, only one person needs to agree. And if both of them do not agree, then this is where we get false. That is the OR operator. And this is important because sometimes when you are writing certain programs, the program requires that you test for one condition and not both conditions. For example, if you have a program that needs to grant discounts to a customer who is shopping on your application, and the criteria says that the customer needs to meet only one requirement. In this case, you need to use an OR operator to be able to perform your logical operation so that you can give the discount to the customer if they meet one condition. So here we can see that its member is true and purchase amount is 120. And the system is saying that any customer who is a member of the shop or has a membership card should be given a discount, or anyone who purchases more than 100 should be given a discount. Now, this particular customer meets both of them, and so this customer is definitely going to be eligible for the discounts. In this case, if this person does not have a membership card but purchases more than 100, then the person is still going to get the card because the person meets one of them. So we have these two operators because sometimes your program requires for you to test for one condition, and other times your program requires for you to test for both conditions to be true before you grant access. For example, if you are building an authentication system to check username and password, you have to make sure that both username and password matches what we have stored in the system before access can be granted. You cannot say that the username is correct, the password is wrong, so I should give access. If you are developing a system like that, you cannot make such a decision. You cannot use the OR operator. You have to ensure that username is correct, password is also correct, and then you use the AND operator to be sure that both of them match the correct credentials before you can grant access to this particular user. So sometimes it is just important that you know which operator to use, and other times you know which operator to use as well, either AND or OR. Nelson Mandela says that a winner is a dreamer who never gives up. A winner is a dreamer who never gives up. So if you have a dream, Nelson Mandela is telling you, don't give up, because if you don't give up, you will win. Sometimes you feel like giving up. Sometimes you feel like this thing is going to fail. Sometimes you feel like this is not going to work. Sometimes you feel like you are tired. Sometimes you feel like you've been working so hard and you are not yet seeing results. Nelson Mandela is telling you that don't give up. Don't give up. You will win. Don't give up. You will win. If there is someone who had an impossible situation, Nelson Mandela is the one who had the most impossible situation. His situation was more difficult. His dream was more difficult. And it took years and years and years and years and years. And he didn't just move forward. He went to jail for so many years. So many years. More than 17 years in prison. But he didn't give up because he kept the dream alive. Even in prison, things were working out for him. After so many years, after the lifetime of others, sometimes it will take so long. When you feel like giving up, that is when you will see the glorious output, the glorious result of your dreams. So imagine your dream working out. Imagine what you are doing, what you are dreaming. Imagine it coming to pass and it working well and it being established and it being something that is accepted and is working. It will come to pass if you don't give up, no matter how long it takes. Little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. One drop may not look like enough. Working today may not look like enough. Working one day may not look like enough. Sometimes you even feel like today, what have I done? I've not done anything, but you have done something. Don't give up. Keep working, keep working, keep working. And one day we are going to see it. Quitters do not win. And if you quit, it is a guarantee that you are not going to make it. Once you quit, you have signed the certificate that you are not going to make it. The moment you quit, it's over. But if you don't, there is a chance that you'll make it. And those who have been and gone to the other side, they are telling you that, my brother, my sister, do not give up. You will make it. You will make it. If you believe you'll make it, please put this in the chat. I, I will make it. I will make it because I believe that you will make it. That is my belief in you. You will make it. You will make it. You will make it. Yapandi, you will make it. Benedine, you will make it. Priscilla, Lois, Cynthia, you will make it. Kwame, all of you, you will make it. I believe strongly that you will make it. So don't give up. Let's keep working. Let's keep working and we will get there. All right. Okay. So today we are going to move on to another interesting topic, and we are going to manipulate strings in Python. And string manipulation is one important skill that you should have to be able to work with strings and control strings to be able to use them for specific operations. And so we are going to look at how to manipulate strings. And the first thing you need to learn about strings is that a string in computer's memory is simply a sequence of characters. When you store a string, the computer stores it in memory as a sequence of characters. We've mentioned this before. And this sequence of characters can include letters, can include numbers, even symbols, and even space is included as the characters you are storing. And the most important thing right now is that in Python, anytime you want to store a string, the string needs to be enclosed in either single quotes or double quotes. This is very important. In Python, you need to be able to store your string in single quotes or double quotes. And using either single or double quotes is completely left to you. You have to choose whether you want to use single quotes or double quotes. So if I create a variable like greeting and I store the string hello, that is a string. That is a string. So let me go to my PyCharm and let's create a new file if I don't have strings here already. Okay, let me just open to what I have here. And let's create a variable called greeting equals to hello. Now, the moment you do this, you have created a string. We learned the last time that you can use single quotes. And the moment you do this, Python recognizes this as a string. If I place my mouse on this in PyCharm, PyCharm will tell me that this is a string. You can see it here that PyCharm has recognized that this is a string. And even if I remove the text from it, it still recognizes this as a string because of the quotes. You know, in Python, if I use square bracket like this, it will not tell me that this is a string because the moment you use square brackets, this stores different data structures. And so if you come here, you'll be told that this is a list. And later on, we'll look at lists, we'll look at tuples, we'll look at sets and dictionaries. But we are looking at strings, and strings are enclosed in single quotes or double quotes. The moment you use single quotes or double quotes, you are told that this is string. So when I type something like hello over here, this is a string. Number one, I know that is a string. And number two, we have to understand that all of these characters are stored individually or separately in the computer's memory. So there's a memory location for this character, a memory location for this, a memory location for this, and all of them. And if I introduce space and I type world, this character here or the space over here is considered a character as well. This is considered a character as well. And so this is stored. Although it is space, it is not left like that. It is stored as a character within the string. All right. So all that we have here, they are all referred to as strings. You see, you can even store a password, and all of these characters will be recorded and stored in memory as strings. And so strings can contain letters, symbols, numbers, and even spaces. Now, enclosing the string in either single or double quotes is a matter of personal preference. What this means is that you have to decide which one to use. And we are saying that there are situations where one may be more suitable than the other. For example, we give a situation here like this. If you have to store a string that contains an apostrophe, you may have to use double quotes here, because if you use single quotes and you store this movie title, so this is a movie title, it's a movie title, and the title is Ender's Game. So if I store Ender's Game like this, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a problem because I use single quotes. And over here, I actually need an apostrophe, but because I use a single quote, this apostrophe is confusing with a single quote I used, thinking that I want to end the quote. And so in this particular situation, it will be best for you to use double quotes, because a single quote will break the string, and all the text after that quote will be considered an error. Over here, PyCharm is not seeing this as an error, but everything here, it is seeing it as an error. So in this situation, it will be best to just say double quote and end it with double quote. Now, if you begin with a double quote, Python will be looking for another double quote to end the string. And so if it sees a single quote, it will not consider it as a closing quote. It will not consider it as a closing quote. All right. So in this situation, you can see that the double quote worked really well. However, you still have the power to use single quotes in this situation if you know how to introduce escape characters. So we have some escape characters like this. If I introduce this escape character, it is a special character telling Python that the next symbol you are going to see, escape it. So you can see that I didn't get an error and this worked. If I print this, and say print movie title, and I run this, if I should run this, I'm going to get the movie title correctly, Ender's Game. You can see Ender's Game here. So I was supposed to use double quotes, but because I decided to use an escape character here, I was able to still use single quotes. If you don't want to use this escape character, then you are going to get an error, and so you need to use double quote to prevent the error. If I use double quote right now, I'm not going to get an error, and when I run this, I'm still going to get the Ender's Game right. Other times, you may have to introduce double quotes within your string. For example, we have a lesson topic called Understanding Strings in Python, and the strings here is surrounded by double quotes. And so if we come here and we say lesson title, Understanding Strings in Python, and we want this to be in quotes. If I use single quote, or let's say this is double quotes, no problem. This is not going to give an error because we started with a single quote, and so Python will be looking for another single quote to end the string or the sequence of characters. If I use double quote here, then I'm going to get a problem because a double quote here is going to confuse with the first one, thinking I want to end it. And so anything after this double quote will be considered an error. So in this particular situation, you are supposed to use single quotes because you have double quote within your sequence of characters. However, you can still use double quotes and escape it and not have the error if you are able to introduce the escape characters. So you can see that because of the escape characters, I'm able to escape the character here. And I have been able to use my double quote here and another double quote here. And let's come here and print this lesson title. And when we run this, we are going to see understanding strings in Python the way we want it. And there is no problem at all. So these are important and very basic skills to know about manipulating strings in Python. Now, we are already aware that str, sometimes pronounced as str, is string. So anytime you see this in Python, it means string. In Python, we also have what is called multi-line string. Please put that in the chat for me. Multi-line string, multi-line string. And multi-line strings are simply text that extends across multiple lines. And so the principle here is that anytime you want to write something in Python, please put it in quotes. Please put it in quotes. All right, so let's see what we have here, understanding strings in Python. Let's have it here. And let's see what happens when we break this line. All right, so when we break this line here, we are going to get an issue here right now. When we break this one too, we are having an issue, especially because the quote that we started with wasn't close on that line. And so Python is saying that sometimes you may want to create a long line of text. All right, so let's say you want to create a message, and this message should span across multiple lines. If you want to do this in Python, we have something we call multi-line strings. And to create or use multi-line strings in Python, you need to have triple double quotes or triple single quotes. If you use triple double quotes or triple single quotes, you can keep typing and typing. So you can say, welcome to the Python Developer Bootcamp. My name is I will be your instructor today. Enjoy the class and let me know your, let me know your what? Let me know your scores at the end. Thank you. All right, so here I've typed a long message. Let's say I'm writing a program where this whole message is supposed to be sent as an email. You know, an email should be able to span across multiple lines. How do I keep that whole message in memory? How do I store something like that? Python says that if you want to store something like this, please enclose it in triple single quotes. Begin with triple single quote or triple double quote. Both of them will work. At the end here, if I want to print message and I run this, I'm going to see that the whole message is printed right here. I have the whole message printed right here. So this can be done as well. We call this multi-line strings. Again, you can use single quote, 3 of them, and you end it with triple single quotes as well. When you run this, you are going to get your whole message like this. That is what you need to know about single and double quote Python. Again, just like we started on day 1, when you are learning Python, you need to learn it concept by concept. You need to learn little things and put them together. So right now, you've been able to understand that strings operate in quotes, either single quote, double quote. You can escape characters in Python strings whenever the situation demands. You should be able to remember that you can escape characters. And if you want your string to span multiple lines, you can use the triple single quote or the triple double quote to create what we call a multi-line string. So that is what we have looked at, and it says that Python 2 is discontinued. It is recommended to use Python 3. So several years ago, we had Python 2, and I know people who were developing in Python 2. Right now, we are developing in Python 3. And so anytime you check your Python version, if you go to your terminal and you check your Python version, you say Python dash dash version, you are able to see that this is version 3 point something. So this means we are working with Python 3. If you're a Mac user, if you want to do this, you need to type Python 3 dash dash version, because Mac by default comes with Python 2. And so if you don't indicate Python 3, it is not going to recognize your inputs or your command, or it will be processing it with Python 2. So always use Python 3 when you are working in a Mac environment. All right. So let's continue with our basic string manipulation. And the first thing we are going to look at is how to combine strings using the plus operator. This plus operator is called the string concatenator, and we use it for something called string concatenation. Please type string concatenation in the chat for me. Anytime you want to concatenate string, what that means is that you are trying to combine string, and to combine strings, you can use the plus operator here. This plus operator can join or combine two strings together. We cannot use it to combine an integer and a string, but we can use it to combine multiple strings together. So let's say, for example, we have first name and last name. We can create full name by using the plus operator. Let's try this in PyCharm. And let me open to PyCharm. And let's say we have first name. Let's say first name is Bernardine. And then we have last name. Okay. Today I was hearing that you have changed your name. So if you want to create full name, we can say first name plus last name. Now, when we do this and we print the full name, what is going to happen is that we are going to see them join together. So this is what we mean by string concatenation. It means you have combined two strings. So we had first name, and we did plus last name. So it has combined them together. When you run this again, we are going to see that it is going to follow the exact instruction you gave. First name plus last name. Now, If you want to space them out, then you need to introduce another string. Remember, when I do this, I've begun a string. This is called a string literal. When I open this quote, it means I've started a string. So when I introduce space here, this space will also be stored as a character. So this whole thing is a string. This is a string because it contains a string. And then this is also a string. So this plus operator, I've been able to use it 2 times because I'm able to add 1 string, 2, and 3 all together. And this will work because they are all strings. So you can see it's working here. And what is in between here is also string. It will also be accepted. If I don't use a string, and here if I use an integer, let's say +2, let's run it and see if it will work. What is happening is that we are getting an error. And this is a type of error that is very common in Python. And if you use the plus operator, it means you are not concatenating. So Python is telling you that this is a type error. The data type you are using do not match. You can only concatenate. You see the word here, concatenate, because this is a concatenation operator. Anytime you use this, it means you want to concatenate. But you can only concatenate string to string. You cannot concatenate string to an int. So can only concatenate string, not int to string. So you can concatenate string to string. You cannot concatenate int to string. But what I'm doing here, I'm trying to concatenate string to int and string. This is an error. So anytime you use this operator and there is string involved, then both operands need to be strings. And if they are all strings, then it's going to work. If you introduce another data type, you are going to get a type error. All right. So this is not allowed. I can just use this. All right. Now, we also have what is called string repetition. String repetition. String repetition. And when it comes to string repetition, we have another operator that we use for string repetition. So the operator we use for string repetition, I want to show you the name. The operator we use for string repetition, that is it over here. So last time I asked you to spell this for me, and only few people got it right. This is asterisk. And this asterisk, remember, we are not doing an arithmetic operation. If we are doing an arithmetic operation, this is a multiplication operator. Right now, we are doing something called string repetition. String repetition, and this is an operator that can also be used for string repetition. So for example, let's say you have a word called hello. Let me use someone else's name. So let's call the variable still hello. And let's store somebody's name. Let me see whose name I would like to store. Let's say we want to store Cynthia. All right, we want to store Cynthia here. And we want to print hello. Maybe let's call it name to make it more descriptive. So let's say name. So we want to print name times 10. This means that we want to repeat this string by this number. When we run this, we are going to get Cynthia 10 times. We are going to get Cynthia 10 times. All right, we are going to get Cynthia 10 times. All right. So this is called string. It's called string repetition. It's called string repetition. And I used to try this example. If I put dollar here and I run this, I'm going to get dollar 10 times. So whatever I put in the quote is a string, and I can multiply this to 1,000. And when I run this, I have $1,000 over here. So whatever string you have, you may want to repeat it. And sometimes your program may want you to repeat string. So to repeat string, you have to understand that you can repeat it. You can repeat it. And so once you use the multiplication operator, it will repeat. To repeat. All right. So the next string manipulation we are going to learn is called string indexing. Please put indexing in the chat for me. Indexing, indexing. These are still basic concepts. These are still basic concepts that you need to remember. And as you learn these concepts, you later use all of them together to solve real problems. When it comes to the concept of indexing, we need to understand that each character has a unique index position. Each character has a unique index position. So over here, we have this as a string. So this entire Python programming is a string. I've stored it in a variable called name. If I put my mouse on name, I'm going to see that name is a string. I'm going to see right here that is a string. Now, I have told you that a string is made up of a sequence of characters, and so the system treats each character separately. Now, what string indexing is telling you is that apart from treating each character separately, each character has what we call a position index. So each character has a unique index position, has a unique index position. To make it easier for you, you can say index number. So what this means is that all the characters have index numbers, or it is best to say position numbers. So that is the concept of indexing in Python. And the next thing to understand is that the first character has an index of 0. The first character has an index of 0, and you can access only the character you are interested in. So for example, I can say print name, and if I say name, it will access the entire memory for the entire text. And when I run this, I'm going to get the name Python programming here. However, if I say name index 0, and this have to say index 0, meaning you are only targeting this index number. And so whatever out of these characters in the name variable is stored at position 0 should be printed. And when I run this, who can tell me what is printed or what is stored at the position 0? At the position 0, who can tell me what is stored over there? So what is stored in position 0 is P. This is very important. Once you understand this, it makes it clear that all of them are stored in different locations. If I say, show me what is in position 1 or index 1, it's right to say index 1. What am I going to get if I say index 1? We know that it begins with 0. So index 1, Lucy is right. So if I check this index 1, I'm going to get Y. Y is stored at index 1. Y is stored at index 1. All right. So what are we going to get if we check for index 5? Okay, if we want to check for index 5, what are we going to get? Let me put 5 there. What are we going to get? Let me see who can get it. All right. So I'm seeing one person say N, another person says 5, a space, another person says N, another person says N. Let's run this and see. So when we run this, we are going to get N. Wonderful. So this is a very important concept in Python. Again, we learn Python concept by concept, And this concept is called indexing. And we use indexing whenever we are dealing with what is called a sequence. And string is a sequence. It's a sequence of characters, meaning every character here is on its own. And each character has an address. You can actually point to it in memory. You have to understand that the first rule of indexing is that the first character has an index number of 0. So if you are looking for index 1, you are not going to get the first one. So all the time, the first is 0. This is important to understand. So we have 0, we have 1. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. If I say I'm looking for 6, what am I going to get? What am I going to get when I look for 6? What am I going to get? Someone says I'm going to get an empty space. So if I run this, thank you, Lois, I'm going to get an empty space. So you may think that nothing was printed, but something was printed. I told you that the space is also a character, and that space is stored. Really? Yes, the space is stored. You can see that it printed it for me. We don't see it because nothing was there, but it printed it. All right. Another rule that I'm going to talk about, is that the last character also has an index of -1. Python says that I don't care how long the string is. If you want the last character, use -1. If you want the first character, use 0. So if I run this, who knows what I'm going to get after running the index of -1. So the first person in the chat says that I'm going to get a G. So let's run this and see if we get a G, and we got a G. So these are simple things to learn and to know Python. Again, if I say -2, what am I going to get? If -1 is the last but one, -2 will be what? -2 will be, let me see someone. I can see, okay, Cynthia says the second to last, and the second to last is N. And that also gives you a clue. If I say -3, this means I'm counting from the end. When I run this, -3 is definitely going to be I. Evans is right. So these are all string manipulation concepts in Python programming. Next, we are going to look at, we've talked about this already. We are going to look at the concept of slicing. Please type slicing in the chat for me. Type slicing in the chat for me. Slicing in the chat. So we've looked at the concept of indexing. We've looked at the concepts of repeating and concatenation. Now we are moving on to what is called slicing. And slicing is very interesting. It simply means using a string to create a substring. Please type substring in the chat for me. Type substring, substring, substring. Now, what is a substring? A substring is a new string that is extracted from a main string. So let's say we have a topic, we can get a subtopic. The subtopic falls under the main topic. All right, that's a different concept when it comes to strings. When it comes to string, it means that having your string and pulling some characters out of it. The characters you pull out of your string, we refer to that as a substring. So in Python, slicing means extracting a portion of your string to create a new substring. So if you have, let's say, a string here called Python programming, you'll be able to slice it and fetch any portion of this that you want. For example, I can fetch program out of this. Program, I can fetch program. To fetch program, I need to slice the string. This variable is called name. I'll type name. And this that we use for indexing, the same is also used for slicing. To slice, enter the first index number and then bring colon and enter the last index number. So the first number for this, the index number for P will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll type 7 here. Then I'll say colon. I want to end here. So if this is 7, this is going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And this is 14. Wait a minute. Why am I not using 13? If I use 14 and I run this, I'm going to get program. This program here is a substring. And this substring was taken out of a main string using the concept of slicing. To slice is just like a pizza that you have taken one slice out. You can have any string and you can cut off part of them. The only thing you have to do is to understand the concept of indexing before you can do slicing. To do slicing, we use what we call range indexes or range indices. Now, the range indices means that begin with the first index, introduce a colon, and add the second index. Just like in Microsoft Excel, if you want to select a cell, you know that every cell has a name. If you want to select a range, you need to begin with the first cell name, column, the last cell name. All right. Now, with what we have here, I want someone to slice Python for me. Slice Python for me. Put your code in the chat and let me see who can slice out Python for me. Just Python. Let me see who can do it. I'm giving you 30 seconds. Python, who can slice Python for me? Remember, you need to use the concept of indexing, and then you need to create a range, and you can get your slice. So the first person, you have 15 seconds more. Okay, so Lois is saying 0, colon 6. Let's see if Lois is right. So I put 0 here, and I come here, and I put colon 6. Let's run this, and we get Python. Wow. Thank you, Lois. You are amazing. All right, what is going on? What is going on? Now, if you say 6, I thought this was 0. This was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So why didn't we use 5 over here? And if you use 5, 5 is supposed to be n, but we are getting Python instead of Python. Now, there is also a rule when it comes to slicing in Python. The same way we have rules for indexing, we also have rules for slicing. The rule for indexing, there are 2 of them that I can tell you. The first rule is that the first index number is 0, and the last index number is -1. Those are the rules. When it comes to slicing, there is a stronger rule, and that rule says that Python will not include your last character when you create a slice. Python will exclude your last character when you create a slice. What does it mean? What it means is that if I want Python, I understand this is index 0, so I began with index 0, no problem. This should be index 1, this should be index 2. So if I say 0, colon 2, I have done the right thing. I have highlighted from 0, 1, and 2. I'm supposed to get PYT or PYT, but instead of PYT, I'm getting Pi. Why? The reason is that Python will eliminate or exclude the last index number. That is just a basic rule when it comes to slicing, and you don't need to ask for explanation. That is just the way it works. Python says that I will not include the last index number. So if you know that you want to end at n, you have to include the next one before Python will end you here. That is why Lois was able to say 06 and not 07. If I say 07, I'm going to get an extra space. Or if I say 05, thinking I'm going to get it, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to get something else. This is what we call the concept of slicing. Slicing. Now, I want someone to slice and give me the word, give me the word, give me the word in, in. Create a slice from this Python programming string and let the result be in. In. Let me see how you do it. Let me see the first person to be able to do it. I'm giving you 20 seconds. I'll be back and see what you've done. All right, so I'm getting a lot of interesting responses. Let's try from Prisla. Prisla says we should use index 15. So remember, these are indices. Call this index 15 and call this index 17. Let's run this and see if Prisla is right. In. Wonderful. Let's clap for Prisla. You got it. You got it. You got it. All right. Let me try from Valentine. Valentine is saying I should use index -3 colon index -1. Let's see if Valentine is right. And you got it. All right. So that is very simple. This is called slicing in Python. Slicing. Now, this is a very powerful concept. If you'll be doing data analysis, you'll be applying this. Everything we are learning, you are going to be applying them. All right. That is why I want you to take this one concept at a time. One concept at a time. So right now, we have looked at data types in Python. We have looked at how to use them to create variables. We've looked at operators. We know how to use the arithmetic operators, the comparison operators, the assignment operators, the logical operators. We know how to write if statements. Remember to write your if, create a Boolean expression, then your colon. Don't forget the colon. Then you create your indentation. PyCharm will do that for you automatically. Then you write what we call your code block. Your code block is your operation, whatever you want to operate, or whatever code you want Python to operate on your behalf. It can be just one line, it can be 1,000 lines. So long as it is indented, it is under the if statement, and the if statement is saying that the code block you provide under the if will only be executed if the condition is true. So if the condition is not true, the code will be ignored. And so we will look for an elif. If you have an elif, we will look at it. And if the elif is true, then we are going to process your elif. If you don't have an elif, you are going to leave it like that. But if you have an else, we will go and choose your else. The else is a final option. The else is a final option. That is if the if statement is false. But if the if statement is true, then the code under the if will be executed. Now, if you don't want to jump from if to else, then you need to create an elif. If you create an elif, then the program will not jump from if to else. Remember, we are talking about controlling the flow of your program. So after if you have an elif, it will jump to elif, the first one, and check it. If it is true, then it's going to execute that. And if you have a chain of if, elif, 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 and else, what it means is that only one of them is going to be executed because we have several code blocks under each one. Whichever one meets the truth requirements will be executed. If none of them meet, then the else will be executed as false. After that, we just combine conditions with the logical operators, and we are talking about string manipulation, and we've just talked about string repetition, string concatenation, the concept of indexing, and the concept of slicing. These are still the very, very basics of Python, the very, very basics of Python. And so if you can understand all of these, then you are really preparing. At Rita Africa, our goal is to build a very, very strong foundation in Python for our data analysts, our data scientists, for our cloud engineers, for our software engineers, for cybersecurity professionals, and all of those in our training programs, because we want to take Python to a whole new level and really understand it. So this is something that we are really learning into details and we want to understand well, because this is the number one program that is changing the tech industry. And so we need to learn this and understand it well to the level where every one of us can confidently create classes and objects and do what we call object-oriented programming. And you can also use your libraries to perform your various operations. And so when it comes to Python, we are not going to leave it at all. We are going to learn it so well. So well. So when it comes to the basics, make sure you are following. If you miss anything, go over the video, try and get a concept, because to understand this Python, it is just about covering one concept and the next concept one after the other. When the time comes for you to use it, you are going to combine your Python knowledge together. Combine your Python knowledge together. All right. So let's continue. After the concept of slicing, which we have seen, and there are different types of slices to create. For example, we have one slice that says extract characters from the beginning up to index 6. So this is also true in Python. If you want to begin from somewhere, this is what you do. We know that once you place the index number here, let's say I put index 8 to index, let's say 12, it will start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is here. Then 9, 10, 11, 12, and it will exclude this. So this means this is what we are going to get. Roga. Let's run and see if we get Roga. Roga can be the name of somebody's company. Roga Industries, Roga Technologies, whatever. Today, there are modern names being created. All right, so we got this, all right? Now, Python is saying that according to this language, it is also possible, just like we've studied, that you can begin with 0 or you can begin with negative. It is also possible to begin with nothing. If you begin with nothing, it has a meaning. When I say nothing to 6, it has a strong meaning. The nothing here means begin from the beginning. The beginning. The beginning. Please type the beginning in the chat for me. The beginning. In the beginning was the. All right. So the beginning here says nothing. So there was nothing in the beginning. And so if you run this, please remember, if you want to begin from somewhere, you need to put the index number there. But if you put nothing, nothing means the beginning. So when I run this, I'm going to get from Python, from Py. All right, wait a minute. So I said from nothing to 6, and nothing means from the beginning. So whatever text you have or whatever string you have is going to start from the beginning. Then we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, the last will be ignored. So I'm going to get Python. All right. What if I say from 7 to, let's say from 7 to 9. When I run this, I know that, okay, sorry, what have I done? I know that 7 will begin from P, then 9 will end at O, but O will be ignored, so 0, we have P and R, okay? Now, Python is saying you can also provide nothing at the end. And when you say nothing, nothing means run to the end. So nothing means in the beginning, there was nothing. In the end, there was nothing. So if you say nothing, it means it will run to the end. So when I run this, it means I begin from 7 all the way to the end. It doesn't matter how long it is. Once you provide the first one and you say nothing, nothing means run to the very end, to the very end. All right. What if I'm very, very smart and I say, okay, I'm going to test it. I'm going to say nothing to nothing. Would this also work? If I say nothing to nothing, would this also work? If you think it will work, let me know in the chat. Do you think this will work? Priscilla says yes, it will work. And Lloyd says it will work. Okay. Bernadine is telling us that from the beginning to the end. All right, so let's see if this will work from the beginning to the end. And Bernadine, okay, is right. We have beginning to the end. So these are all interesting slices you can create. Interesting slices. Now I'm seeing a lot of names. I can see Katongole. Let me type Katongole. Katongole, please, where are you from? Are you from Kenya? Are you from Cameroon? Are you from Uganda? Let's know in the chat, Katongole. Your name is interesting. Katongole from Uganda, Kampala. All right. Okay, so Katongole. Let's run Katongole and see what we will get. So from beginning to the end, we are getting Katongole. All right, thank you. A man from the Ente clan. All right, so we have Katongole. All right, so let's see what interesting slices we can do with Katongole. Now we have seen that nothing to an index number will work. Nothing to nothing will work. One to nothing, of course, will work. Now we have another one here that says take every second character in the entire string. Take every second character in the entire string. This is called slicing with a step. Slicing with a step. Please type slicing with a step. Slicing with a step. Slicing with a step. Let me see the first person to type that for me. Slicing with a step. And instead of, all right, so slicing with a step, Cynthia got it. So we have nothing, nothing, and a step of two. All right, what does this mean? Let me go back to Python programming before I come back to Katongole. Now, if we have Python programming and we have nothing to nothing, we know that we are going to get Python programming. All right, that is it here. We are going to get Python programming. This is called slicing in Python. But if you introduce another column, this second column has a meaning. The second column means you want to introduce a step. Now let's try with a step of two. And let's see what the step means. So the first index here, which is nothing, we know what that means. To nothing, we know what that means. But if we introduce colon and a number, this is called a step. So when I run this, I'm going to see the whole Python programming with a step of two. What does it mean? What this means here is this. We have our P. It started with P from the beginning. Then it skipped the Y and gave us a T. So we can see the T. Then it skipped the H and gave us the O. We can see the O. It skipped the N, gave us a space. We can see the space. It skipped the P, gave us the R. We can see the R. And you can see that it is slicing with a step of two. This means if it records one, it ignores one. Records one, ignores one. Now, if I slice with a step of three, and I run this with a step of three, I'm going to get, I don't know how to pronounce this. I don't know how to pronounce this. But we got a P and we skipped Y and T, and then we've got the H. So this means we are jumping three times. So the third step means you jump one, two, pick the third. Then you skip one, two, and pick the third. One, two, pick the third. One, two, pick the third. One, two, pick the third. One, two. So this is called slicing with a step. All right. So one day you are going to need this to be able to slice with a step. Now, next we have, this is the same thing. Instead of slicing from beginning to end, I can also indicate where I want to begin from. I want to begin from 0. I want to end at 6, and I want to have a step of 2. So this means that I'm not doing from beginning to end. I'm doing from beginning to 6, the step of 2. So when we run this, we are going to get from beginning, which is P, to only Python with a step of 2. So it ended at N here because this was not included with a step of 2. So PT, O, that's all. So sometimes you have an examination question that will give you something like this to slice and tell you that slice with a step of 2. If you see this with a step of 2, then you are going to know how to step. All right, so you create your own step. Okay, so let's go back to Katongole and let's see how the reversing of a string works. So I'm going to reverse this to Katongole, or let me type it again. And we are going to do reverse slicing. Now, reverse slicing is this. Python says from beginning to the end with a step of -1. What does this mean? Python says from beginning to the end with a step of -1. If you do this particular slice, it is so interesting that it is going to reverse your name. So Katongole is now Elon Musk. Sorry, Elog Notak. So Elog Notak is Katongole reverse. Katongole reverse is this. Elog Notak is Katongole reverse. All right, let me see Kwame, if we can reverse Kwame and see how Kwame will sound when Kwame is reversed. When we reverse Kwame, we are going to get, I don't even know how to pronounce this. How do you pronounce this? I don't know how to pronounce this. I don't know how to pronounce this. Let me see another one. I can see Wilson. Let's try Wilson. Maybe Wilson will be nice. Let's reverse Wilson. And we are going to get, no, I don't even know how to pronounce this as well. Okay, so let's see one. Let's try Benedine and see what we get. So Benedine, you pronounce this for us. So let's run this. And Benedine, we get any deneb, any deneb. Okay, all right. So this is called reverse slicing. You can slice like this and reverse. And the moment you reverse, it will reverse your string. Sometimes you may be asked to create a program that is able to check the reverse of a string and produce an output. And some of the projects we shared with you, I think some people have a question like that. That is to create a palindrome or something. And a palindrome is a text that both the reverse and the normal form are the same. For example, a word like madam. Madam is a palindrome because if you reverse it, you still get madam. All right, so write a program that the reverse and the same name gives you the same word. All right, so let's say we have name. Let's just call it word. And let's say the word is madam. Let's just call it madam like this. And you know that we can apply more string manipulations to manipulate this. And we want to say the reverse or word reversed. Let's say word reversed is equal to word index colon -1. Then if word is equal to word reversed, then print. Yes, this word is a palindrome. Else, print. No, this word is not a palindrome. All right. So let's ask the user to input the word. And this is a simple program that is going to print, is going to print, is going to print. It's called a palindrome checker. And a palindrome is any word that the reverse is true. So the word we are going to take from the user, and we will say that input, enter a word. And what we are going to do is to store it and test it. So let's run this. Let's run this and let's test for the word madam. Now, this may tell us that it's not a palindrome because of the casing, but we can deal with the casing issue very soon. So let's say madam. It says madam is a palindrome. Who can give us any word that the reverse is the same as the main word? If you reverse it, any word. Okay, that is very simple. Okay, so that is a palindrome. Mom, okay, level. Thank you, Uche. Chema. So level is a palindrome. Yes, this is a palindrome. Okay, fine. So there are some interesting words like that. And so you may want to build a program like this, and you can see how the reverse has been used right now to create something meaningful. So all that you are learning in Python, they are not to be funny. They are useful and they can be very, very meaningful. All right. All right. So we are talking about string immutability, and we say strings are immutable. Strings are immutable. Strings are immutable. Now, when we say strings are immutable, it means that their values cannot be changed after creation. So this Python we are learning, we are going to encounter the word mutability and immutability. So whatever we see that we learn that it is mutable means it can change. It can change. But if something is immutable, it means it cannot change. If it is immutable, it cannot change. What does it mean? This means that after you create it in memory, it is created in a way that it cannot be changed in memory. And we are saying that Python tells you to understand that a string is immutable. This means that if you create a string, you cannot edit it. Wow. All right. So mutable means the values can change. Immutable means the value cannot be changed. So let's come here and create name and say name is equal to Mike. Now, when you run this program, what is going to happen is that this string is going to be stored in the computer's memory as an object. It's going to be stored as an object. Now, this mic here, once it goes to computer's memory and it occupies space in memory, what is going to happen is that it cannot be edited again. It is going to remain in memory, and you can access it with a variable. You can access it with a variable. You can use the concept of indices to access each of the characters. All right. But you can never change this mic again. When you print this name, you are going to see mic. This mic has been stored in my computer's memory, and this is an object in memory. Now, you know, Python is a high-level programming language, so you are not, you don't control what happens in memory. You just write your code, but a lot happens in memory. And what it's saying here is that this string cannot be changed again. It is possible to access different aspects of it. If I say 2, I'm going to get my K is going to work, but this mic, I cannot change it. All right, let me try changing it. Look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that change name index 2 to Y. This is a correct statement in Python. If this variable or if this string were to be mutable, this code should not have any problem. I can target index 2 and say assign Y. It should work. But Python, if I run this, I'm going to get an error because the string object does not support item assignment. It means I cannot assign to something else, and it also means that it is immutable. Immutable. Please, if you can hear me, type immutable in the chat. And this is a way for me to prove to you that string in Python is immutable, cannot be changed. When we get to another data type that is mutable, you are going to see that this same code is going to work because there's nothing wrong with this. And it is not working only because of the concept of immutability. Strings are immutable. Now, someone may argue that, okay, wait a minute. We can assign the variable to another string. And that will work. Of course, that will work. But let me tell you what happens. If you come here and you say that name is no longer Mike, but name is Kebonye, this will not give you an error. If you tell Python to print name, let's see what will happen. If you say Python to give you name, it will give you Kebonye. So what just happened? Now we said it cannot be changed, but we changed it. We didn't change it. We think we have changed it, but in the computer's architecture and computer's memory, this was not changed. It was reassigned, reassigned, reassigned. Please type reassigned in the chat for me. Reassigned. And so this does not mean that I didn't say resigned, Priscilla. I didn't say resigned. I said reassigned. Okay. Now, this does not mean that when you hear that Python is immutable, it is wrong. It is not wrong. I tested it and you saw that you cannot edit a string. This is what happens when you create this string, Mike, it is an object in computer's memory, and this variable becomes a pointer or a reference to that memory location. This is a reference variable. The data is not stored in this variable. This variable is pointing to this object. So if I take the same variable and point it to another object, think of an arrow moving from name to this text, which has become an object in memory. And think of the arrow being removed from Mike and pointed to Kebonye. This is also another object. This is why when we print it, it is going to tell us where it is currently pointed at. Now, when you do this, what is going to happen is that it is going to lose its attachment to this object. And so in the computer's memory, this object called Mike is still available. It is still available, just that it doesn't have a reference variable. It doesn't have something we can use to refer to it. And so this object is left in your memory like that. And in computer science, we call this garbage. Garbage. Please type garbage in the chat for me. Garbage. Now, it has become garbage because it had a pointer, and the pointer has been removed, and the pointer has been pointed to something else. So right now, there is nothing pointing to Mike. Mike is left in memory now as a garbage. It can never be used again. It will occupy memory space and will fill up memory space for no reason. And so in Python programming, there is something or a tool that is called a garbage collector. Please type garbage collector. And sometimes when you're studying about Python, we are going to be hearing about garbage collection. And this garbage collection, because you don't control what happens in memory, this garbage collection is abstracted away from you. So Python abstracts this from you, so you don't see it happening. But this is exactly what happens. So once in a while, the garbage collector will go to memory and clear all the garbage we have in memory. So the reason, or because I've been able to point this variable to another string, does not mean that we have changed it. We didn't change it. We just pointed it to somewhere else. And the proof lies with you being able to access it and changing something. So if this had worked, then it will prove that strings are mutable. But we can't edit this mic. This mic cannot be edited. It cannot be edited. There's no way you can edit it. So this means that strings are indeed immutable, meaning they cannot be changed. So that is the same explanation over here. But you can reassign. That's why I said you should reassign. All right. So to end the class, we will quickly talk about string methods, and we are going to use some string methods here. And Python provides several built-in functions, and these functions are in Python standard library. Before we learn about libraries, we'll learn about Python's own standard library, because Python has a standard library that enable you to perform a wide range of operations on strings. So Python has a library of functions that we can use to perform operations on strings. For example, we can find the length of a string. So this is called the length function. So this length function, let's say if you have a string here called Mike, you can just tell Python to print the length of Mike for you. Okay, so here I'm not printing Mike, I'm printing the length of Mike. So this is a length function, and the length function, what it does is to give you the length. So who can tell me how many characters we have? We learned that strings are sequence of characters. How many characters do we have in Mike? How many characters do we have? So Mike says we have 4 characters in Mike, and so that is it. So whatever you have here, if you have Python programming, and if you check the number of characters you have, you are going to see that you have 18 characters. So this is a function. This is a function. Let me prove to you that it's a function. You know, we have the print function. This is how functions look like. Every function has a name and has parentheses. And so you put something within the parentheses as an argument, and it will work on it. So if I say name, the function here will work on this, and it will work. Now, the len is also a function. If I say len and I say name, this is also true. This will work. All right, this will work. However, this doesn't know how to print, because this is not the print function. This is just the len function. So I can store this in another variable. I can just say result equals to this. Then I can print the result. And when I print the result, I'm going to get the result, which is the same as 18. All right, so I have used a function here. I just want to prove to you that this is a function. And the reason why I want to prove to you that this is a function is because when it comes to the next one here, this next one here, it's called strip. Please type strip in the chat for me. Please type strip in the chat for me. Strip. Strip. All right. Now, this is how we use the strip. You see, the strip here, even though it's a function in Python, we don't call it a function. Now, remember how I use the functions, okay? I said print, and then I did this. This is how to use a function. You call the name of the function, open parentheses, and provide what we call an argument. When I use the len function, I use it like this. Now I'm using another function. It's called strip, but this is how I used it. Okay, it is still having a name and parentheses, but we don't put anything between it, but we call our variable and we say dot strip. This means that this is actually a function that is part of a class, and so it is referred to as a method. Please type method in the chat for me. Type method in the chat for me. All right. So a method is a function, but it is not a function that can be used by itself. It's a function that lives between or lives within what we call a class. Remember, when we check this string, we discovered that this string is a class, right? So if I want to know the data type, last time we used type, and when we printed this, we discovered that it is a class. Now, if string is a class, then it has functions within it. Now, if a function lives within a class, it is referred to as a method. And so this is how we use a method. So this is a class dot this. All right, let me put it this way. In Python programming, we have variables, we have functions, we have classes. When you define a variable, the variable is free to be called again anywhere in your program, and it will work because it has a global scope. When we say it has a global scope, it means it is not limited. It is not limited. A function, a regular function, is also having a global scope. It can be created in your program and called anywhere. It is not limited. However, when you say a method is a function that does not have a global scope. It is a function that is created within a class. And so you can only use it when you are inside the class. So we have some functions that they are not on their own. If they are on their own, you can just call them and use them, like the print function or the len function. But there are some, they are children of another bigger system that we call a class. And so if they belong to a class, although they are functions, we refer to them as methods. So when you hear a method, this is how a method has to be used. You see the class dot method. Now this method, what does it do? Python says that this method is able to remove unnecessary spaces from your string. For example, if I have space here and I have space here, and I go ahead and I print it, I print name, what is going to happen is that after printing, you are going to see that the spaces are there. You can see the space I created here and the space I created here. All right, this can create a lot of problems. For example, if you are taking an input from a user and you want to use the input to perform an operation, the space there will affect it because it changes the string. You know that with strings, every character counts. And so if you are using it to match or to check against another value, you are going to realize that it's not going to work because of the spaces. And most of the time, when you allow users to input into your program, you don't have a lot of control over what they will do. They can input anything. They can begin with spaces. Most of the time, when you are filling a form, you leave a space that you are not aware of, either before or after. So we call this space here a leading space or leading negative space or leading white space. And we call this a trailing negative space or trailing white space. So the strip is used to remove any leading white space or trailing white space. This is a leading white space. It can be one, it can be two, it can be more. And this is a trailing white space. The spaces there, we call them white spaces. And when you print, they are also going to be part of your string. But then if you add dot strip, what the strip will do is that the strip will strip the spaces off of it. And the spaces we are talking about are not spaces within your text to enhance the UI. They are leading and trailing white spaces. So you can see that the space before and the space after have been cut off, even though they are actually still there. The strip, that is what it does. It's able to remove spaces from your strings. Next, we have three methods here. We have lower, upper, and title. These are all methods. And the moment I say method, you should know how to use it. If it is a method, you have to call the class and then dot. So this is what I'm going to do. Let me make this correct without the spaces. We know how to use a strip. And now let's say dot upper. Now it is a function because it also has 8 parentheses here. Now if I print name.upper, .upper is a method that is able to turn your strings into uppercase. Then we also have .lower that is able to turn your string into lowercase. So when you run this, you are going to see that everything is going to be lowercase, in lowercase. Then we have what is called title. The title will convert it to title case. And so when you run it, see, I've used all lower cases, but if you run it like this, you see title case. Title case means it should be presented as a title. The first letter of every word should begin with an uppercase. So these are important methods you can use. For example, we created a program here, and we said the program is word equals to input, enter a word, and then we said reversed word is equal to word index reverse. Now watch this. If I say if word is equal to reversed word, then print yes, this word is a palindrome. It's a palindrome. Else print no, this word is not a palindrome. All right. Now, if I create a program like this program is correct, but it can face a lot of challenges. If I run this program right now, we are going to see that if I type a word like madam, it's telling me that no, it is not a palindrome, but it's still a palindrome. What if you are receiving a password? What are you going to do? If the person makes a mistake with the case, should it be a problem? No. This is a problem that the programmer needs to handle. So the Python developer will say this. The Python developer will say that if word.lower is equal to reverse.lower, then now compare. What are we doing here? What we are doing is that we don't care how you type it. We are going to force it to become a lowercase. Then the reverse, we are also going to force the reverse to become lowercase. And now we are going to compare the lower versus the lower. And so when you run this and you type madam like this, it's going to work because something has been done to it before comparing. All right. So over here, you can see how we are using our comparison operator. and how we are introducing string methods to it to make our program more intelligent and much more better and smarter, and the way it should be written. All right. All right. So let's look at another. All right. So they have more. Okay. So we are done. Because of time, I'm going to make this an assignment so that we will just work on it as an assignment. So let's make this an assignment. Let me just make it a group assignment so that you all work on it together as a group. So make use of string methods and solve this and submit to assignment@reachafrica.com. And it says that create a Python script that uses logical operators. Is this what we used yesterday? Is it the same assignment as yesterday? Okay. This is the same as yesterday's assignment. Okay, let me check. Let me check if I'm showing the wrong. Okay, so I think you are right. This is the same as yesterday's work. So what I will do is that I'm going to give you a simple assignment. I'm going to give you a simple assignment. All right, so please take the question and you are going to work on it in a group, okay? So question 1, create a multi-line string with 5 lines of text. Create a multi-line string with 5 lines of text. And what this means is that we are going to have a sentence or multiple sentences that runs across 5 lines. All right. Convert the second line to an uppercase. Convert the second line to an uppercase. So this means your sentence will be there as a multi-line string. You convert the second line into an uppercase. Then, number 3, I hope you're writing. Extract the 10th word. Extract the 10th word from your string, from your multi-line string. Extract the 10th word from your multi-line string. All right? And print it. So extract the 10th word and print it. Then, question 4, multiply the 10th word 10 times. That's question 4. Multiply the 10th word 10 times. Multiply the 10th word 10 times. Then, number 5, make use of F strings to print your final results or final outputs and include comments in your program, right? Include comments in your program. Now, what do I mean by comments? Let me share this. Although we have not talked about comments really well, these are comments. If you want to create a comment, you begin with a hash and then you write a comment. The comment is just a note explaining what your code is doing, all right? So I'm sure you're familiar with comments. We'll talk about comments into details, but use F strings and comments in your code. Use F string to display your final output and write comments in your code explaining your code. So this is a group assignment. I like to see it by 6 p.m. tomorrow. And what we have covered today has given you more information about the Python programming language and what you can do with it. Every concept we've covered is important. There are more advanced concepts, but these are just the basics. So please make sure you can use what we have covered today. Take notes in class, revise the videos. The videos are in the LMS. Have special time and go over the videos because you really need these skills to advance. And like I said at Rita Africa, Python is a language that you are going to be mastering if you are a student or you are going to get admission into Rita Africa. On Thursday, those seeking admission will be assessed, and those who pass will make it into the program. However, everyone else is going to take the exam for us to know how you are doing. So let's prepare. Tomorrow we meet again. And on Friday, we have our final session within the module 1 of the Python Developer Bootcamp. Thank you so much for spending time here with us and learning with us. And I will see you in the next class tomorrow. I wish you all the best. Good night and bye-bye.